what I mean. All right, close the eyes or even bring the eyes down 90 or 95%. And just starting to pay attention and just to notice your breath. Maybe there's some lovely music or fragrances kind of playing and that's smellable in the background. Just take a moment to notice those things. If you've sprayed some essential oils or some incense, just taking a moment to notice those good fragrances, or even just what it is that you're smelling. And notice what it is other than my voice that you are hearing within your ears. Are all of those factors conducive to this environment, one of which you want to relax and unwind? And if the answer was no to either of those, maybe make a little shift. Go and grab some essential oil or play some music. Know that you have time to make these adaptations, these shifts to better serve our overall purpose of what we want to do within this next hour or so. And taking a moment to notice if the breath is serving that higher intended purpose. So if the breath is in a location, or even if you're breathing in such a way that is not conducive to relaxation, is not conducive to unwinding, take a moment to make that shift. Maybe that shift is breathing fuller, breathing deeper, making sure that the breath is really nourishing. Maybe you're breathing so deeply and so fully that you begin to feel this internal massage, maybe even this internal stretch starting to happen from the inside out. And just take a little bit of a mental, I guess, question or ask yourself, how was your day? Was it stressful? Was it hectic? Was it pretty low key? And sometimes what we don't acknowledge within our yoga practice can really persist and manifest into something that we don't want it to do. So if we take a moment to acknowledge, wow, my day was really stressful, or I didn't like how that person handled that situation, or that really frustrated me when he or she did this or that. So take a moment to acknowledge, to even feel those situations in your body for just a moment. Know that the intention is not to allow these feelings and sensations to manifest, but is simply the opposite, actually. The more we acknowledge and give these feelings, these experiences, a presence within the stage of our consciousness, the less they are likely to bother and to come up later in this practice or even in your night tomorrow. And let's take 3 vibrant, cleansing, clearing breaths in, and long, smooth, steady exhales. If the first one's kind of like a blast, just to get those emotions or sensations out of the body, then feel free. Let's go for the first one together. Deep breath in and let it go. Good. 2 more, breathing exactly in your own way. Deep breath in and let it go. Last one, deep breath. And release. Feeling lots of space between the earlobes and your shoulders. Feeling the flesh of the outer thighs and the glutes burrowing its way in towards the earth. Finding safety and stability. Maybe even the sense of rooting. And then from those places of grounding and stability, can you find your torso on both the left and the right side, lengthening up towards the ceiling? Feel your chest lift. Feel the roof of your mouth, the tops of the ears, the crown of the skull, everything lifting and getting lighter. All of that gets light, but then you also feel your shoulder blades feeling grounded and rooted and pulling down, feeling that gravitational force. Imagine all of those areas of heaviness and safety, security, acting as though they're big sponges just soaking in gravity. And now just taking a moment to practice this quality in yoga that we refer to as equanimity or observation. This is the part of yoga that is like the creme de la creme. This is your ability to watch, to observe, but also to remain unaffected and detached. So we're going to just start to notice our physical body. Notice all of the areas within your body that feel light, that feel spacious. Maybe it's your pinky toe, maybe it's your thighs, maybe it's your heart beating within the center of your chest. Maybe it is the pit of your throat, the space just below your nostrils above the upper lip. Maybe it's your cheekbone. Notice these areas that feel light and tension free. Now begin to shift your awareness away from those areas. Begin to notice the areas within your body that feel of sensation. Maybe it's tightness in your groin, in your lower back. Maybe it's in one hip but not the other. Maybe it's in one shoulder or both. Maybe the back of the neck. Maybe the space between the ears, the currency of your thoughts. Maybe that feels tight, heavy, and constricted. Again, not to acknowledge and allow them to manifest and metastasize, but to give those areas, those more negative qualities to our experience, a little bit of presence, acknowledgement, a little bit of stage presence, so that what we resist does not persist. And then for a moment, those areas that feel tight and congested, heavy, maybe even, I want you to speak to those sensations with your breath, with the currency of breath. Breathing this sense of lightness and healing and spaciousness into these areas. What we think, what we believe has a big impact on what we feel within our body. So I'm going to take a couple of moments with you here together in silence for you to connect to this idea of healing and using your breath as a source of release, relief, and healing in your own way. This is a great time within these moments of silence to also create an intention, a healing affirmation, some sort of a mental focal point for your practice tonight. I am healed. I am light. I am peace. I am love. I am accepting. I am fearless. Whatever intention speaks to you, plant that seed now and allow the next few rounds of breath to act as a nourishing center, a nourishing system for the seed to drop into the center of your chest, the soul of your heart, and to allow that seed to grow into a beautiful plant, a beautiful flower, a beautiful tree, whatever you want that intention to manifest into. Couple more breaths. And if you're sticking around for the physical asana practice, the actual stretching and movement, begin to fire up your ujjayi breath. Gentle hug, gentle constriction into the back of the throat. And feel that vibrational pulse as it transcends into your body. And notice how the shift to this breath either feels good, feels serving to our overall theme of the practice to relax and to unwind from our day, or maybe it does the opposite. And if it does the opposite, that's okay. It's not that you're doing it wrong or inaccurately. It just means that it doesn't serve your body and your body's natural intelligence. And that's okay. So just leave it. Don't do that breath work. Choose to maybe just breathe normally and naturally in your own way, knowing that every choice you make is absolutely perfect when you choose in this way that is so loving and so compassionate to your physical body. And now, either keeping the eyes closed or at 90-95% of the way, but not fully open. If you're on your back, go ahead and roll onto your right hand side. If the left comes more naturally and more intuitive than the left hand side, it is. But just take a moment on your side, knees pull into your chest pulls into your knees, feeling that rounding of the spine. Maybe even feel a little bit of a subtle, gentle release as the back line of your body opens up like a slinky. And then using your top arm, press yourself up into a seat that feels comfortable. Even if it's on a chair, know that that's a viable option as well. Beautiful ways of practicing at home is that you have these options. Honor them, use them to the best capacity. And know that your body is craving that movement, and that's the right choice for you. hands make their way to the knees, go ahead and round and dome. Magnetize your shoulders towards the groins, groins towards the shoulders as you round and dome, finding that seated angry cat posture. Feel the sit bones as they push forward, spine rounds back. Good. Now pull back on your knees. Inhale to lift and lengthen. Find this little tug of the heart forward and this hook up. Upper inner groins pull back as you find this expression where the front line of your spine opens up. Slinky in the opposite direction. Now exhale, round and dome. Take as many breaths as you would like in this rounded shape, or find a fluid flow. Inhale to lift and lengthen. Maybe even opening the throat if that feels good. Exhale to round and dome. And without talking, uncue, just finding this movement and connecting to your body in your own way. Feel free to find a barrel roll in your chest, or maybe a little lateral side bend. Again, just exploring any type of movement that feels nourishing. Good. Let's do 3 more inhales. 3 more exhales, just exploring this movement. Good. Now take a moment to pause. Notice which leg is in front if your legs are crossed. Take a moment to reverse the crossing. Typically what happens is the side that's more open, the leg will go in front. So this is actually your more tight hip, the thigh, the shin that's in front. So then grab a hold of your knees and start to do this kind of like barrel roll in the chest. So you're just going, making this little hula hoop action into the torso, imagining as if the rib cage is sort of doing this little dance around the spine. And this is also going to help to lubricate and open up, sort of if you imagine your spine to be a little box, the inside edges of the box, as we call them, the facet joints. So this is a really nice way to find a release not using any fancy language in the back. Now go ahead and pause, reverse the direction. So going in the opposite direction. And you can pair movement with breath or just be conscious of your movements. Again, whatever feels the most serving, the most nourishing to your experience. Good. Now from here, go ahead and find a nice neutral spine. We're going to reach the hands out in front of us. So just slightly, so just ever so slightly. Now pull back on the earth as you reach the sternum forward. Keep the low ribs pulling together and in towards the spine. Then from here, with a nice flat back, begin to fold forward. So just getting into the groins just slightly. So hands can begin to walk out in front of you. Now, what you want to do, it's really important to really integrate these cues into your body to feel this movement in your groin. So I want you to imagine sort of the base of your spine all the way to the center of your brain. It's a big, long string. Now, I want you to imagine that bottom point, so the base of the spine pulling back. So it's like your bum, the flesh of your bum is burrowing its way in towards your mat and then pulling back ever so slightly. So you're finding these two opposing actions. So bum reaches back, heart reaches forward, and then you drip your heart down towards the earth. And that groin, that upper inner groin pulling back is going to be a key to you experiencing any opening into the groins. And if you don't right away, know that this is also very subtle, and my intention is to kind of prime the the groins and the low back and some other things to come in a little bit deeper later on so that the movements that are deep later on aren't toxic and, I guess, shocking for the body. So just spending a couple of moments here in silence. So you're welcome to relax your forehead, maybe onto a block or a couple of books, maybe even some blankets propped up. And then we'll just take about 3, maybe even 5 breaths, just experiencing this posture in our own way. And if your head is on something heavy, right on that little furrow point, maybe just reach and roll from temple to temple, just massaging out any tension in the forehead, whether it be physical or even mental. Good. Last full, deep, vibrant breath in and let it go. Good. Go ahead and lift the forehead up, look forward, and then begin to walk your hands in towards your body. Just taking a simple twist to the left to begin. So fingertips come to the small of the back and on the earth. Hand comes to your outer thigh. Inhale. So again, your sit bones, we can only elevate and lengthen what is rooted. So really focus on your sit bones and your glutes, the flesh of your bum, burrowing into the earth. So really feel that heaviness. Then feel, and sometimes literally I'll grab my ribs here and feel this pull up, like I'm trying to pull my spine out of my pelvis. I mean, that's a terrible thing to think about, but feeling that elevation. So feel that elevation, but keep the shoulders relaxed, and then fingertips release, fingertips release. Inhale, find length. Exhale to twist low back. Inhale, backing out. Exhale, twisting now low and mid back. Good. Inhale, back out. Now all 3 together. Low, mid, upper. Maybe option to look over your left shoulder. And really important to breathe fully into your belly. So those deep diaphragmatic tummy breaths, those nourishing breaths, because what that's going to do is put a little bit of healthy pressure and stress on the rib cage, which is attached to the spine. With the twist, it's going to be a nice release for you. So one more inhale. Exhale to really ring out, drop the shoulders, increase space between the lower earlobes and the shoulders, and then inhale to release, and then going all the way to the other side. So inhale, find length. 3 exhales get us there. Exhale, twist low back. Inhale, lift. Exhale, low back, mid back. Inhale, lift. Now all 3 together. Option to look over shoulder. Good. Chin nestles a little bit in towards the chest, like you're trying to hold a raspberry between your jawbone and your sternum. Again, lots of length through the back of the neck. So feel the base of the skull lengthening up towards the ceiling. Shoulders are heavy, full tummy breaths. One more inhale. Exhale to release. And then just for a moment, find a rounding if that was a little bit, created a little bit of tension. Good. Now from here, get up nice and tall into your spine. We're going to rock onto our knees, but we're not going to stay there. So what you're going to do, I'm at home today, so my floor is pretty cushy, but I'm gonna just be extra precautious and grab a couple of blankets for underneath my knees. Another thing you may require in this posture is like a bolster. I know, Van, you have a bolster. Brendan, I'm not sure if you do, but anyways, some blankets or something to come underneath your chest. So this one's really gonna get into the groins. So I'm going to show you head on here. So these guys are going to go underneath my knees. Now I'm going to have enough width that I can allow some space to happen. So in other words, when I come into this pose over time, the groins will release. So I have space on the edges to allow the knees to widen. So make sure that's the case with you. And I'm actually going to show you from the side because I want to see how the hips are. So I intuitively know from my own experience that this is about good distance. So it's kind of up to you where you start with. You might have to come out and readjust. And that's absolutely okay. And then have your cushion handy. So what you're going to do is find tabletop. Toes can be tucked or untucked. Doesn't really matter. We're going to switch that up here in a second. So begin to widen the knees from tabletop. Now, two options. Your toes can pull in together, kind of like child's resting pose, or toes can flip out to the big toe edge, and the ankles can be an extension below the knees, okay? So two options. One way is gonna feel better. They both feel a little different, but one brings a certain intensity to it. I prefer the toes in, knees wide. I'm not sure why. And then from here, I'm just gonna place my hands underneath my shoulders. I'm gonna cinch my low ribs in. And then from here, I'm just gonna be patient but persistent. So I'm gonna let my knees widen until I feel I'm already almost off my blanket, so I'm gonna have to come out and readjust, and that's okay. But already, or sorry, you're trying to come to that place where you feel about 40% sensation. So if 100 was like belly flopping into water, I don't know where that analogy came from, but anyways, but 40 or 30 or 40 was kind of like relaxing in a bathtub. And that's what you want to do, is just relax into a bathtub and just know that these tissues will release if we're patient but persistent. So just taking a moment, we're going to drop onto our bellies here in a sec, but again, coming to about 30, 40%. Then once you experience 30, 40%, ask yourself, is this enough sensation? Know that over time, the knees will naturally widen and release, and the groins will lengthen. Do you want to stay at 30, 40%, or do you want to bump it up to maybe 60%? And I would probably stay at 60 and then allow time and patience and persistence to be the rest of that mixture. And then go ahead and drop onto your elbows. That sometimes changes the sensation. And then once you're on your elbows, go ahead and reach your pelvis forward. Reach the pelvis back. Notice how now that change, that alteration, changes the experience of what is happening. So do you need to drop into that bigger intensity, but then pull your knees in? Or do you hover just before the intensity? So find a place that, again, is serving this overall theme of getting into the body to get a good, healthy stretch, but also being relaxing and unwinding. So does this posture and this degree within the posture serve that intended purpose? And that's where you need to be the best judge of that. And then some options once you make all of those choices and decisions, because you know you're not sick of making them all day long. You have to make them at yoga too. Sorry about that. You could take some pillows or a bolster to kind of rest underneath your belly. I personally like to rest the bolster or pillows under my belly, but then take that block or another stack of blankets or a pillow underneath my forehead. And obviously, enough space between the bolster and the block or whatever prop is underneath your head to breathe, because you don't want to breathe in fabric, obviously. That's not always the most relaxing. Or you can turn your head to one side or the other. And about halfway through this posture, I will remind you to look in the opposite direction. So once you find your yes posture, your yes place, the one that feels, you know, workable. It's not good, it's not bad, but it's doable. Can we breathe the breath into those areas, those sensations in which are really loud? The volume is really loud right now, super distracting. Inner groins, hips, low back, knees, maybe even. If the knees are feeling irritation, then prop that blanket that's under your knees, under your shin, so that your knees are not experiencing any compression whatsoever. Or you can come out of this and actually do this posture right on your back. It's not going to be as deep, but it's going to be more luxurious, more serving to the knees, because the knees don't want to be agitated. And then just relaxing here as best you can. Allow this posture to once again be as if it's a meditation. Let the shoulders go and the arms. Allow the facial muscles to release and drip towards the earth. Breathe fully and nourishingly. Breath being the secret ingredient to allowing the sensations you're experiencing to be a little bit less loud. Allowing the breath to have this magical ability to soothe, to relax, to heal. Go ahead and look in the opposite direction. If you had one cheek, go ahead and flip onto the other cheek. And nestle back in. Sometimes even that subtle shift, so looking in the opposite direction, can change an aspect within this pose. So maybe there's an element of backing off or going deeper that now you can venture into. For the last few rounds of breath, I want you to see if you can experience this little shift within your body. I want you to imagine that you're like a puppy, or a kitty, whatever you connect with a little bit more, and you have a tail. Imagine you're wiggling your tail. Can you feel that little rock boat action in your pelvis? And if the sensation is too loud for you to experience that, I want you to pull your knees in towards one another enough so that there's a release and you can feel this little kind of shift, like you're wiggling and wagging your tail. And if I were to look at you, I may be able to see it, but maybe you're really tight and I can't see it, but you can feel it, and that's okay too. But then I want you to pull your right hip back just a little bit further, like your right hip bone is magnetized towards the wall behind you. And then just feel that transition as you feel more into the upper inner right groin. Good. Now release. Pelvis should be neutral. Now pull the left hip back as if the left hip bone is magnetized towards the wall behind you. Now feel that a little bit more in maybe the upper inner right thigh. And then do that one more time to each side. So pulling right hip back, maybe feeling it more upper inner left thigh, or maybe right. Again, make those just kind of that little data collection, that interesting information, no judgment, no stories, just interesting information. And then left hip bone pulls back, upper inner right groin, maybe more. Good. And then neutralize, maybe shake, maybe wiggle, maybe waddle, if that's even a thing. And now sometimes this can feel like pulling off a band-aid. So what I'm actually going to get you to do is to look forward, come onto your elbows, and then go ahead and pull your hips forward until you drop your pelvis onto your supports. And then begin to straighten your leg and pull your heels together. And then just take a moment to allow your body to reabsorb, to come to a state of equilibrium. Good. And then from here, go ahead and tuck your toes. Stay a little longer if your body needs it, but then go ahead and roll onto your back. And then just place your props off to the side. So this next one, you may need like a medium-sized towel or blanket, a strap, a belt, a scarf, a dog leash, or you can use nothing if you have nothing around you. But go ahead and roll onto your back. I'm going to use the straps, but that would be your swap out if you have like a dog leash or a scarf or something like that. But before we get to this next little bit, I just want you to allow your body to arrive in Shavasana, corpse pose or death pose. And if you're interested in why we call it corpse pose or death pose, so the idea is that a yoga class represents sort of a whole spectrum or a whole cycle of life. And so the beginning is kind of birth, life, and then eventually we find death, which I know is not a pleasant topic to talk about, but yogis don't mind talking about death because it's just a fact. So eventually the class ends in a death, and then when we reawaken from Shavasana, it is a rebirth or a regrowth or kind of that idea of a phoenix arising from the ashes. And I like that analogy just in the sense that sometimes after a really good yoga class, feel as though I've been kind of reborn within my body. And that's how I like to look at it anyways. All right, just another full belly breath here. All right. When you're ready, if you're ready, you're going to start to walk your feet together so that they're about hips bone distance, just a fist, maybe a fist and a half. So your heels are directly below your hip bone. Then you're going to squeeze your right knee in and just give it a little tug, just as much as feels good. And then from here, we're just going to cup the knee and just sway from side to side, kind of like you're exploring that rainbow, that crescent into your upper, inner, and then outer hip bone. Whenever I do this, I always imagine kind of like doing that deep clean in my house. Specifically, I don't know why I imagine this, but getting all the grime, like the corner grime in your shower that you really have to like take a toothbrush to and really just scrub out. I always imagine that when I'm doing this because that's kind of what it feels like. That upper crescent, that upper C shape of the hip can always feel pretty sticky and pretty gummy. Okay, so when that feels kind of good and done, go ahead and stretch the heel up towards the ceiling. The first thing we're going to do is just interlace our hands into the back of the thigh. If that's actually too far away, if you're that tight, which is again, it's okay. Just interesting. We need to do more of this. You can take a strap or that scarf, that dog leash. And then from here, really press. Remember that rooting to rise analogy. We really want to press the sacrum into the earth and then feel this elevation through the back line of the body, this internal sense of buoyancy as your heel magnetizes towards the ceiling. And then we're just going to take a couple of breaths here. And again, whenever I'm working this posture, I always imagine on my exhales really pushing my right hip bone down. And then on my inhales, I feel this reverb or this kind of like growth from my sit bone, my right sit bone, all the way to my right heel. So I'm working with visualization and literally with my body and with my breath. So again, so that exhale is that glute, that right glute rooting down the back of the pelvis. And then as I inhale, I imagine this lifting and lengthening up. Good. One more here. Pretty active, really active through both feet. Good. Now go ahead and find a bend into your right knee and just give your body a little bit of a relaxation, a little release. So really important here to be quite active. So I call this intelligent stretching. It's also maybe in more Western culture or mainstream medicine, it may be called neural loading. And so the idea is that the more we tense, the more load or weight we're putting on that stretch, creating more intensity and then muscle fatigue and then eventually muscle release. So I like to work with that concept, but again, it's up to you if you want to do that. So let's try that one more time. So really reaching the heel up, rooting the pelvis down, and lots of activation in the body. So really active through the feet, really active through the arms, even engage your core slightly. This time when we do it, we're imagining again that pelvis, that right edge of the pelvis rooting down, that lifting up through the heel, but then also the pull of your toes in the direction of the top of your mat. So imagine those three components now as we stay here and hold for 3 inhales and exhales. Also notice too if your big toe kind of rounds in or rounds out. So you want to imagine your foot is pressing on the ceiling. Because if you over push through the baby toe and actually just do that, kind of round through the foot where you're pushing through the baby toe mount, notice what that does to the outer side edges, so the lateral edges of the leg. Which honestly, if you're tight in the outer edge all the way to the TFL and IT band, this could be a really nice subtle stretch for you. So you're really pushing through the pinky toe edge. Now pull the pinky toe edge back and push through the big toe edge. So notice how you can manipulate things within your body with just a simple adjustment. You might get a foot cramp though, so be cautious. Now neutralize like you're pushing your feet evenly into the ceiling. And now that targets the back of the leg, the hamstring, which is, I have a hunch as to where then you might be a little bit tight here. All right. Now from here, let's go ahead and cross the ankle over the thigh. So we're bending through the left, crossing ankle, and let's just take a figure 4 here. So you're going to interlace your fingers either in front of the knee or behind the thigh. So whatever feels most comfortable. Push the right knee away as you pull the left knee in. Push the low back down. Let the shoulders relax and root into the earth. Feel a long line of energy from the tailbone all the way to the dome that is the crown of the head. Feel a gentle magnetization of the back of the neck as it reaches up towards the top edge of your mat. Back of the skull burrows ever so gently in towards your mat. Good. Now, release the interlacing with your hands. Hands are going to come into low V, palms up, into cactus, T position, or Y, as in the YMCA, or any other version you find comfortable. Then from here, take a deep breath in. As you exhale, let's twist to the left. These twists, I'm hoping, will really get into the spine in its entirety, and specifically the low back and thoracic, which tends to be pretty congested with people with low back issues or tightness, tenderness. Now play around with this right knee. You could squeeze it in, feeling some heat into your upper inner right hip bone, or push it away, feeling some spice maybe in the groin or just wherever you could feel tight. But play around with that. Know that you're always welcome to experiment. All these little tweaks and just kind of curiosities in my own body has led me to understand my body way more. Good. Stay here if you want a couple of extra breaths. If you found a place that's really like getting into a good spot, stay, linger. When and if you're ready, inhale back to center. Now twist to the right. Now on this side, you're going to imagine magnetizing your knee towards the bottom edge of your mat. So in essence, I'm asking you to straighten out. So from the knee all the way to the hip, you're really lengthening out, getting into the front of the hip, into the hip flexor, which I also have a suspicion you're tight in. And then try to keep your shoulders rooted, but if the left shoulder lifts up a little bit and doesn't cause any negative sensation, then that's okay, let it happen. Breathe into your belly. Remember, with the pressure, that balloon from inside also creates a little bit of a stretch that helps us. Then you're just gonna release your hands if that feels okay. Notice how your ankle is to the outer knee. That could be causing some knee issues. You might have to release that, okay? So release it if you want, or you can push down, but only push down if both feet are active. Really important for your knee health. And then if you're super Gumby and you're feeling very ambitious tonight, you can take your left hand and actually grab your left ankle. But again, is that conducive to relaxation and unwinding for yourself? Or maybe it is, but you just want to play around, and that's okay too. Good. And then breathe there. Breathe this long line of energy all the way from your shoulder. So we're getting into this spiral line that's really important, from your left shoulder all the way to your left knee. And maybe even imagine like you're trying to push an imaginary button with your left knee. Feel that intensity, that opening into your left edge. Good. One more inhale, always suggested, always can stay longer if needed. Inhale back to center. Now, let's either keep left knee bent or straight, up to you. Grab now your strap, or again, you could play around with this with no strap as well. So strap is gonna lasso just below the ball of the foot, and then you're gonna shoot your heel up to the sky. And then from here, you're gonna take both strap edges into your left hand. And you're gonna pivot your toes. So keep your heel where it is. If you're on the ceiling, you're gonna pivot on your heel. Toes are gonna start to pivot and point towards your left shoulder. Keep this outer right hip bone glued to the earth. That is key to feeling this. And then you don't have to come very far. Go ahead and pull the inside edge of your foot over towards the side. And this is like, it always feels really gummy, really annoying, really intense for me, but you don't have to go very far. Notice how if you let the hip lift and even play around with that, it'll pull the stretch into your thoracic spine, which is all fine and dandy. But for this one, I really want to target more of kind of low back stuff. So we're going to keep this hip bone glued down. I like to take my thumb and my index finger on the right hand side and even just like let it weight there, acting like a paperweight on that hip bone. And then just, again, imagining kind of serenity now, because it's intense. A long line of energy from outer right hip bone to heel. One place roots, one place lengthens. So this growing effect happening between the heel and the outer hip. Good. Now, lessen the choke on the strap. Let your elbow relax, your left elbow and your right. Now let the leg just reach and tip. Now let your hip bone lift up. Now it's a twist into the thoracic spine. And again, you can look away from the leg, coming into a full supine twist, because your neck is a part of your spine. But if that does cause negative sensations, look up towards the ceiling or even over towards the foot. Sometimes that does cause a little bit of discomfort for people. All right, and just for the sake of time, because we have that whole other side to do, inhale back to center. Both strap edges come into right. I like to wrap the strap around or whatever it is that you're using. Now make sure both both feet are flexed. Now toes pivot to the right, so it opens up the leg. Then you can allow the leg to reach over, getting into the groin and hopefully into hamstring as well. And then again, that right edge of the pelvis rooting down and then feeling this growing. The heel moves away from that spot. Toes magnetize towards the top edge of your mat. So you're working it more and more and more up towards the top edge of your mat, but only when you feel that little release from the body, that little subtle invitation, that depth is welcome. All right. Again, always inviting you to stay longer. One more full breath in. And release out. Good. 2 options to come out. Engaging core, swinging the leg up, or bending through the knee and pulling the knee in. Awesome. Now you can switch the strap into just below the ball of the left foot. We didn't use a strap kind of for the first go, and I'm not going to, but you could use it if you wanted to. And then just let the legs kind of relax and just notice what you notice. Kind of the cool thing about yoga is that when you stretch something out, you should be able to noticeably feel a difference in the sides rather. But what do you notice? Do you feel something different? Do you feel, I won't tell you what you should feel or what you could feel, just feel what you feel. I'll tell you in a moment though. So if your answer to that was, I feel longer or more buzzy, but the length, most people, and I've asked people, not just experience this in my body, but most people will feel that my one leg, specifically the right side here, feels longer. So just an interesting observation. Okay, let's bend through both knees. Now interlace the hands or use the strap around the back of the thigh or just below the heel. All right, now invite this guy to straighten when it feels right, but again, you don't have to. Straight will just get into the front of the hip a bit more. Now, left edge really pushes and roots down. Feel the flesh of the bum pushing down. Then feel that lengthening, that reaching up with the heel. And again, making this active. So both feet are active. We're actively gripping on either the strap or the back of the thigh. Again, that neural load happening. So lots of activation. But again, almost as if you're meditating within the posture, everything is happening physically, or all of these physical things are happening, but your breath is fluid and vibrant and nourishing. Your mind is clear and relaxed. Also practicing observation, equanimity as we are holding these shapes. All right, deep breath in and bend through the knee and just give yourself a little release. Do that upper cross scrub with your knee. So pulling the knee in and down and then up and wide. And then just doing that upper crescent a few times. And find an interesting spot, pause a few moments or feel into that spot, breathe into that spot. When you're ready, round to heel high. Now with the add-on of again, so pelvis pushes down, heel reaches up. So feel that growing into the back of the leg. Now toes begin to reach above head. Again, just the idea is happening. It may not actually move at all, but maybe you can even just close your eyes and just almost wish it to happen. And sometimes your mind needs to have that gentle encouragement in order for it to feel appeased in a way for the body to actually release. And then you can try pushing the pinky toe edge of the foot up towards the ceiling, feeling the stretch into your outer ankle and outer leg. And then pulling that guy back and pushing through big toe, feeling the stretch into the inseam of the foot and ankle. Playing around with that movement back and forth if you want, or maybe rolling around in circles with the foot is always nice. Maybe fanning the toes. Good, one more breath. On your next exhale, see if you can nudge the toes a little closer to the top edge of your mat, but again, that growing into the back of the leg. Awesome. Let's go ahead and release that load, that neural load, and just let everything be floppy and relaxed. Take the opportunity to slide the heel on the right hand side in towards the glute. Find a little cross into the legs. Push the left knee away and then pull the right knee in. Interlace hands behind or in front of the shin. And then push low back. So you're squeezing right knee in, you're pushing left knee away, but pushing low back down. Relax the shoulders. Increase the distance between the shoulders and the bottom earlobes. Reach the tops of the ears towards the wall behind you and soften the eyelids down to maybe 90 or 95%, maybe even all the way. The shoulder blades burrow their way into the earth. Feel that gravitational pull down. Feel the nourishment of your breath within your body. Softening the right leg down, right foot down, and coming to that twist. Looking away from knees if that feels good. A little less cueing on this side, more opportunity for you to experience this shape in your own way. Feel the tension of the day rolling down your back into the earth, letting go. Inhale to center. Exhale to twist left, creating lots of length between knee and shoulder. Unhooking the ankle if that feels better on your right knee. Looking over the shoulder if that feels okay, or maybe up towards the sky. Whatever choice you make, know that that's the best choice for you in this moment. Option to grab a hold of the ankle if that feels good and serving to your overall experience. Inhale the knees back to center. Before we do the hamstring and the IT and the groin, just a moment in Shavasana. All right, finding a rebend into the knees, finding your whatever you are using as your arm extenders. Left side, so just below the ball of the foot. Slide the heel up. Strap edges are going to come into your right hand. And then again, option to straighten left or not. I like to loop the strap around just so I'm not gripping really hard. My hand can more act as a paperweight. Now in this one, it's really easy to kind of let the foot cave in like so. So really press the heel actively and then begin to pivot the toes as if they're magnetized to the shoulder. Good. And then when you're ready, that outer hip bone, I'm actually going to turn around so that you can see, but this outer left hip bone glues. And I like to put my hand there just to remind myself mentally to keep that rooted until we come into the twist. So go ahead and pull that inner edge of the foot over as much as you feel sensation. And right away, it should be pretty quickly because again, most people, this is very intense. And if you want to play around a little bit, if you're not experiencing enough into your upper inner left hip, that was a lot, but you could try kind of pulling those toes, kind of hooking them up towards the right shoulder. But again, this guy, this outer hip stays glued down. And then a couple breaths here before we release into our twist. And I know it's intense, but every time things are intense these days, I'm like, I'm surviving a pandemic right now. Nothing is that intense, or compared to that, it suddenly doesn't seem to be that crazy. All right, let's release. So let the hip come up. and release into that twist. So again, trying your best to keep the left shoulder rooted, but if it comes up a little bit, that's okay. Again, as long as it does not cause that negative sensation anywhere within the body. And again, breathing this big, big, full tummy, nourishing, luxurious breath. Good. And then inhale when you're ready, back to center. Strap edges now both come into the right hand. Again, a little loopy-doop around the hand. Now, heel presses actively towards the ceiling. Find the toes now, just the toes, not the heel, not just the toes towards the left shoulder. So you get that little external rotation, which also helps with hip opening. And then go ahead and begin to release the leg, getting now into the groin and also into the hamstring. Heel is magnetized towards the wall beside you, and then toes are magnetized towards the shoulder. So there's this active pressing long, but then also pulling up at the same time. Take a moment to imagine the tops of your ears lengthening up and pulling up. Finding that spaciousness into the back of the neck. Chin burrows down ever so slightly. Both feet are active. Breath is full. Eyeballs are soft. Temples are relaxed. One more breath in. Stay for the exhale. Then again, bend through the knee or swing the leg up, whichever feels best. And then place your whatever you used off to the side. And we will find a couple of moments in Shavasana as we end and close our practice. So if you want to take some time to get nice and cozy, or if you want to make this just an express Shavasana, it's up to you. But please do take at least a minute or two. I mean, I would be kind of ripping you off if I said a minute or two. Truthfully, 5 to 10 minutes, but if a minute or two is all you have because it's the day before Canada Day and all of the things, then absolutely just at least give yourself 2 minutes in silence where you can just allow your body to really absorb all of these openings. So I'll set you up and just kind of talk you through a couple of places to soften, and then I'll leave you to enjoy your experience. So make sure that the shoulders are pulling down and squeezing ever so gently in towards the spine, feeling that internal sense of buoyancy, that internal sense of lift in the chest. Pick up one heel, lengthen it long, other heel, lengthen it long. Same with the arms. Lots of length in the limbs. Base of the spine reaches up, feeling that chin tuck in ever so gently. But if you're utilizing a lot of force, a lot of concentration to keep these body parts as I've told you to place them, just let it all go. Let the body completely soften. Again, the whole point of this is to find your own degree of softness and unwinding, of relaxation, and taking a moment of sanctuary within your day. So never entering into this space with more expectations upon yourself. Allowing your heart, your body, your mind to marinate within this now, this moment, this space, this time, this place. With every breath, with every exhale, you feel your back line melting and liquefying into the floor, the foundations of your home, the soil beneath your home. Feeling your body into this earth, feeling the gravitational pull and push upon your body as you act as a big human sponge, just soaking in surrender and softness. Please stay here as long as you need to. And I hope to see you both again, maybe on Sunday. From my heart to yours. Namaste.